All right, so buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving deep into a world where charisma and controversy, well, they collide.
Yeah, and sometimes it seems like they completely merge.
It's like a high-stakes game we're talking about today.
Yeah, a game where the lines get really blurry between like a visionary entrepreneur.
And a con artist.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes, sometimes those lines, they just vanish.
Yeah, they disappear altogether.
Yeah.
It's a real puzzle, you know? Humans are just drawn to these big personalities.
It's true.
People who just make these bold promises.
They've done the rules.
They seem to just bend the rules to their will.
But how do we know? How do we separate these true innovators from the master manipulators?
Well, that's what we're here to try to figure out.
Exactly. And today's subject, he's like the prime example of that blurry line.
Yeah, who are we talking about today?
We're talking about Nevin Shapiro. You remember him, right?
Oh, yeah, Nevin Shapiro, the University of Miami athletic scandal. That guy.
That's the one. Millions of dollars in illegal benefits to players. A program on probation. It's wild.
Oh, yeah. This case really blew the lid off of some of the shady stuff going on in big-time college athletics.
We've got so much to go through today.
Mm-hmm.
Articles from when the scandal broke, court documents from Shapiro's fraud trial,
Wow.
even some excerpts from a book that he wrote in prison.
Talk about a first-hand account. We've got a lot of different perspectives to consider here to try to really understand Shapiro
You do.
and answer the question, grifter or gifted? Was he a visionary entrepreneur who took a wrong turn?
Or were his schemes just baked into his DNA from the very beginning?
Let's get into it.
All right, so first, a little background on Shapiro. He was born in Brooklyn, moved to Miami with his family as a kid.
Okay.
And it seems like he showed this knack for business pretty early on.
Okay. Interesting.
One article even mentions that he was involved in something called grocery diverting in his 20s.
Grocery diverting. What is that?
I was wondering the same thing. You know what that is?
Yeah, well, it's not exactly your typical lemonade stand.
Okay.
Basically, he's buying up huge amounts of grocery items.
Like bulk?
Yeah, but at discounted prices.
Yeah.
And then he would resell them to smaller stores to make a profit. So kind of like a middleman operation.
Interesting. So already we're seeing signs of this kind of hustler mentality.
Oh, absolutely. Someone who
Right.
sees opportunities where others don't.
Exactly. And there's another thing here that I think might be relevant.
Okay.
Shapiro's stepfather, Richard Adam, was actually convicted of business fraud
Oh, wow.
in Canada.
No kidding.
Yeah, and he served 6 years for stealing millions through, like, these fake loan fees.
So his stepfather was basically a con man.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if that environment growing up maybe influenced Shapiro in some way.
It's possible, for sure. Seeing that kind of white-collar crime, maybe it normalized it for him.
Yeah, like maybe desensitized him a little bit.
Yeah, definitely a possibility worth thinking about.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit.
Mm.
Shapiro starts his own grocery diverting business
Okay.
called Capital Investments.
All right.
But this time, he's promising investors these crazy high returns,
Like, how high are we talking?
like 10 to 26% annually.
Oh, whoa. Red flag alert right
Yeah,
now.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It just screams Ponzi scheme to me.
Yeah, you promise the moon to lure people in with the idea of quick and easy money,
Right.
and then you just use the new investor funds to pay off the old ones.
Classic.
It's like a house of cards just built on deceit.
And Shapiro, he was living it up.
Raining.
$5 million mansion in Miami Beach, $1 million yacht, courtside seats at Miami Heat games.
Wow.
He even gave a pair of diamond-studded handcuffs to a professional athlete.
Diamond-studded handcuffs.
That's what I read.
Talk about extravagant.
I know. So we've got this over-the-top opulence.
Right.
Was he just projecting this image of success?
Maybe trying to reel in even more investors.
Or was there something deeper going on?
Yeah.
Like maybe a need for validation?
Ooh, interesting. I like that.
Especially because of his stepfather's criminal past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he needed to prove that he was different.
Right.
That he could succeed where his stepfather had failed.
It definitely adds another layer to his character.
It does. And that complexity is what we need to understand.
Exactly.
To figure out if he was truly gifted or just a really good grifter.
So for a while, it seems like Shapiro's scheme was actually working.
Okay.
Bringing in investors, living the dream, but then, bam, 2008 hits.
Uh-oh.
The recession.
The recession, that's the downfall of any Ponzi scheme.
Everything falls apart.
They need a constant influx of new money to keep the illusion alive.
It's true.
And when the economy tanks and the money dries up, well, the whole thing implodes.
Like a game of musical chairs.
Yeah, where everyone's left standing, but there's no chairs.
And in Shapiro's case, a lot of people ended up without a seat.
Sounds like it.
Lawsuits started flying. The FBI got involved.
Yeah, it got real serious real quick.
In 2010, he pleaded guilty to securities fraud and money laundering.
Okay, and what was the damage?
The numbers are insane.
Yeah.
We're talking about a $930 million Ponzi scheme.
Oh my gosh. This wasn't some small-time operation.
Nope. Yeah. He ended up getting a 20-year federal prison sentence.
20 years. That's serious time. But here's the thing. This is just the beginning.
What do you mean?
This Ponzi scheme. It was just one side of the story. It's almost like he was living a double life.
Okay.
One in the world of high finance and the other in the world of college sports.
Interesting.
And those two worlds, they were about to collide in a very spectacular and very messy way.
So we've got Shapiro, this convicted fraudster, serving a 20-year sentence. But he also became like a major booster for the University of Miami athletics program.
It's almost like he was trying to conquer two worlds at the same time.
I know.
Right.
Like, how does a guy running a massive Ponzi scheme even find the time for all that?
Well, he was donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Hurricanes, especially the football and basketball teams.
Really?
Yeah, they even named the student-athlete lounge after him at one point.
Wait a minute. They named a lounge after a guy who was actively running a Ponzi scheme? Talk about bad optics.
Yeah.
It sounds like his involvement went way beyond just writing checks, though.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. According to Shapiro, he was providing all sorts of benefits to players for years. Cash, jewelry, parties on his yacht.
Seriously.
Allegedly even prostitutes. And remember, we're talking about college athletics.
Right, where they're not supposed to get paid.
Yeah, where amateurism is supposed to be king.
Prostitutes. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, what was he thinking?
It's hard to say for sure.
Was he trying to buy their loyalty?
Maybe influence?
Or was there something else going on?
He claimed over 100 players received these benefits.
Wow.
Including some huge names. Vince Wilfork, John Beeson, Antrell Roll.
No way.
Even the late Sean Taylor.
Wow.
And he had pictures and stuff to back up his claims.
So he was basically running like a shadow operation.
Yeah, underwriting all the NCAA's rules.
And potentially giving Miami a huge advantage in games.
That's what he claimed. And it's important to remember that the NCAA, they have strict rules about what athletes can receive.
Right. Scholarships, cost of attendance.
Yeah, pretty much it. If Shapiro's telling the truth, his actions were a blatant violation.
Okay, so what happened to the University of Miami when all this came out?
The NCAA launched this massive investigation.
I bet.
It went on for years.
Really?
It got incredibly messy.
I can imagine.
Miami ended up having to impose some pretty harsh penalties on themselves.
Like what?
A 2-year bowl ban, and they had to reduce scholarships.
Ouch. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. But the NCAA also got caught with their hand in the cookie jar during this whole thing.
What do you mean?
Well, it came out that they used some pretty shady tactics during their investigation.
Really? Like what?
They basically paid Shapiro's lawyer
Way.
to get information from university officials.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but under false pretenses.
Wow. Talk about hypocrisy. The organization that's supposed to be upholding the integrity of college sports
I know.
is out there playing dirty.
It really raised some serious ethical questions about how the NCAA does business.
Yeah, it definitely did. And because of that, some of the allegations against Miami were dropped.
Yeah. Became this giant mess of accusations and legal battles, everyone pointing fingers.
So where does that leave Shapiro in all of this? Was he some rogue agent, a lone wolf taking down the system?
It's a good question to think about. Was he intentionally trying to show everyone how hypocritical college athletics is?
With their billion-dollar programs that rely on unpaid athletes.
Or was he just a bitter guy?
Like scorned.
Yeah, trying to take everyone down with him.
Because some reports say he was furious with certain players.
Who he felt had abandoned him after they became successful.
Right. Like he felt used.
Yeah.
And wanted revenge.
That's right. There's definitely an element of personal vendetta in all of this.
Yeah.
It went from being this, like, generous thing.
To a total betrayal.
Exactly. Like a scorned lover seeking revenge.
It's like a Greek tragedy playing out in the world of college sports.
It really is.
But we can't forget that he also really hurt a lot of people with that Ponzi scheme.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Real people who lost everything.
Right. Their life savings, their dreams, it's all gone.
It is. And it's easy to get caught up in all the drama of this sports scandal.
Right.
But we can't forget about the human cost.
So Shapiro goes to prison.
Yeah.
Serves 7 years.
Okay.
And then gets released to home confinement in 2020.
Because of the pandemic?
Yeah. Health concerns.
Yeah.
COVID-19. And then last month, President Biden commutes his sentence.
Wow. That was pretty controversial.
It was. Some people saw it as being compassionate.
Because of his health.
Right. Others saw it as a slap in the face.
Be his victims.
Yeah, like the rich and powerful can always get away with it.
So is he a free man now?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
He still has to follow the terms of his release, home confinement, and he still has to make restitution payments. But he's not in prison anymore. Which brings us back to our original question. Grifter or gifted? Was he a visionary entrepreneur who made some bad choices? Or was he just a con man all along?
Yeah.
I mean, it's tricky. On the one hand, you've got this guy throwing these crazy parties, showering athletes with gifts.
Yeah.
Almost like a modern-day Robin Hood, you know, taking from the rich and giving to the, well, I guess to the student athletes.
Right. They're the ones generating millions for these schools.
Exactly. But they don't see a dime of it.
That's an interesting point. You could say that he was trying to show the hypocrisy of college athletics.
Hey.
The system that makes huge profits.
But the athletes are unpaid.
Yeah.
And Shapiro was just playing by his own rules.
Right.
But were his rules really any more crooked than the ones the NCAA was using?
That's a good question. But we can't forget that the money he was giving away wasn't actually his.
True. It belonged to the people he scammed.
Yeah. His victims, they lost their life savings.
Their retirements.
Their dreams.
All because of him.
Yeah, no matter how you look at it.
Shapiro's actions really hurt people.
Absolutely. There's a human cost that we can't ignore.
And it gets even more complicated when you consider what he said after he got out.
After his sentence was commuted.
Yeah, he thanked President Biden, said he takes responsibility for his actions.
Right.
But then he says this weird thing about deeper issues.
What?
Yeah, and more facts coming to light in the future.
Like he knows something we don't.
Yeah. Is he hinting at a bigger conspiracy in college athletics?
Maybe. Or is he just trying to stay relevant?
Make himself sound important like he's got some insider knowledge.
It's hard to know what to believe.
It really is. But it definitely leaves us with more questions than answers.
It always seems to be that way.
So what can we take away from all of this? What can we learn from Nevin Shapiro?
I think it's a cautionary tale.
Okay.
It reminds us to be careful of those who promise too much.
Yeah, the ones with all the charisma and fancy lifestyles.
Because sometimes those are the people with the most to hide.
So look beyond the surface.
Yeah, question the motives of these so-called visionaries.
Because sometimes the line between genius and con man
is so thin.
You can't even see it.
It might not even be there.
And in the end, it's up to each of us to decide where we draw that line.
Absolutely. That's the takeaway.